ma'am.
All right, call this meeting to order.
I will, we have an agenda, a few agenda items, but we are paying Chessie to be here. And I asked her at the last minute to come, and I don't know what her child care arrangements are this afternoon. So I'm going to ask, Mr. Chairman, if we allow Chessie to talk about itinerant merchant licenses first and do her thing. And then maybe Chessie can go after that. And that's probably the hot topic.
Did we get approval for her to be here?
No, I did call it separately. Here's a couple of things, just so you know that Tessie's looking at. Obviously, we've got location where you can set up. I think that the council has declared we're going to have an itinerant merchant license. We got to figure out where people can set up. Okay, some people feel like it's directed at them. It's really not. It is. Where is an appropriate place for you to stop your cart or your truck or whatever it is and do your thing? And I know there will be controversies if we do it on Main Street, even though somebody says, well, I'm not going to do it, we'll probably trust them. But the guy 3 down the road is going to be the issue, okay? The question is, we've been requiring people to set up on business zone property that's privately owned, okay? And we got all kinds of crazy issues with ice cream trucks and all that. And I'm going to let Chessie kind of walk you guys through that because I know what I think, but then how do we work that with an ice cream truck? Be fair. You got to be fair to everybody, right? And how do you explain it? So she's going to give you some options. The last one that's come up recently, and hopefully Chessie can help me with it, is farmer's market. Okay? We have 2 locations in town where there's a regular farmer's market held. One over at the Farm Bureau and one in the town square. And I'm not really sure when DBI got cooking on the farmer's market, but the folks in there said, man, it's really a good place to be. I mean, we're really happy with the results. I think they go down there on Thursdays. You know, we're down there talking to some tent up there. And so some folks had called me and said, what is and what is not exempt? My understanding of merchant taxes or BPO, business professional occupational license business licenses, is that if it's a farm raised and you raise it yourself, I grow these watermelons and I sell them at a farmer's market, they're exempted from having to pay taxes on that sale, that gross sale. Okay.
And that exempts them from the itinerant merchant.
Kind of.
Tessie, will you get up here because in the videos we can't really hear you.
If you don't grow it, it's not considered farmer's market stuff.
Kind of.
All right, well, that's why she's here.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Second issue is that I have a farmer's market. We'll clean up all that. The second issue is a farmer's market considered permanent situs? Are you a peddler or are you permanently sited since you're coming to a regular farmer's market? And I don't know the answer to that one either. So Tessie's here to talk about all kinds of itinerant merchants. Peddler's licenses are determined if you don't have a permanent site. Ice cream trucks, taste, food carts, all those kinds of things. People selling fireworks, they set up in a parking lot. The issue is a farmer's market considered a permanent location? So you pay a business license rather than a peddler's license or itinerant merchant license.
Say, for instance, say if, and I'm just going to use Peanut since Peanut is operating, say if Peanut had a location in downtown, it had an actual storefront. Could he take his trailer, since at that point he is vested, could he take his trailer and go to Walmart or wherever we deem fit without a
the way it's been
itinerant merchant?
enforced, and if we're doing it wrong, we'll check it out. If somebody comes to me and says, I want to sell furniture, I want to sell furniture, and I think it's been pretty sensitive with some of the furniture stores downtown.
Well, I can understand.
You know, you got a guy from North Carolina that pulls in with a box truck, and he's got 25 couches in the back, rolls up the doors. We've been requiring an itinerant merchant's license from them.
Because they don't have a storefront, a permanent situs in Blacksburg.
Well, have they been getting one?
Yeah, if we catch them, yeah. I mean, sometimes the cops will go out there. It's much less than it used to be. It used to be a real regular occasion.
I remember it in Food Line parking lot all the time.
Selling books and subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. It used to be real common. Not nearly as common as it was, but I have seen trucks down there at Food Line open up the doors, and so the police arrive. I've been down there, not recently, but it's a maze of stuff, and Tessie's here to explain it. I'm gonna step out for a minute with Joe, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And let Tessie do her thing, and whatever she comes up with, I guess what we're gonna do.
Okay. All right.
See you, Joe.
You come around.
So to start off with, the main statutes that we're dealing with here are 58.13717 and 3719. And that limits the taxes that we can put on the peddlers and itinerant merchants. And then it also, does note some exceptions. So most importantly here, and some of this is literally like as clear as mud. It is not, it's very hard to, but I'll do the best I can with it. So number one thing is,
Oh, are you on Town of Blackstone artillery?
No, I don't
No,
think.
Oh.
y'all don't have it.
Oh,
this
okay.
is the statute.
Oh, okay.
Yep, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The peddler is any person who shall carry from place to place any goods, wares, or merchandise and offer to sell or barter the same, or actually sell or barter the same, shall be deemed to be a peddler. So I think
That
of,
could mean farmer, that can mean,
yeah, anybody that goes around selling things. I take it as, the ice cream man, food trucks, things like that. And then, or unless the food truck is in a stationary place, and then you may be dealing with a whole other thing. And then the term itinerant merchant means any person who engages in, does, or transacts any temporary or transient business in any locality, and who, for the purpose of carrying on such a business, occupies any location for a period of less than 1 year. So, in that case, you think more about the farmers markets, the guy who sets up a fireworks stand, different things like that. Basically, what you're getting at here is people that are temporary.
So that's itinerant.
Yes. And the peddler is someone that travels around.
So the ice cream truck and peanut, they would be peddlers.
Yes, ma'am. At least the best that I'm able to determine, they would be peddlers because they're moving. Itinerant is someone that stays still. And so specifically what we have been asked to do, I believe council is sat on $500 a year. It can't exceed that. And this is a license tax. And then there are certain limitations. One limitation is one that council may set, and that says the local governing body imposing such tax may by ordinance designate the streets or other public places on or in which all licensed peddlers or itinerant merchants may offer or sell their goods, wares, or merchandise. So that's the first reason I came here tonight, was to see what you all wanted to do about where you all thought, what streets should it be on and what public places, or should they not be on, because you all can enact that by ordinance to limit where they would be.
Jennifer mentioned earlier, we were talking about it, and she said we were talking about naming actual streets. Could you say historic downtown, the historic zoning area, which would be the streets we were discussing, the cross streets and then Main Street. And I don't think personally that you should be able to set up in a town-owned parking lot, Bevel's or whatever. That's my idea.
Okay.
But the historic business district would be from the Classic Grill to Pizza Hut, and it includes back here to Brown Street and
block over.
over to, where's that, High Street?
Yeah.
So that would be an area they could not sell.
Okay, so all streets in that historic business district, and then,
I don't think any town
Any
owned.
public, any town on property.
Yeah.
okay.
And that leaves open your residential streets, or if they want to go down to Barbara's district and sell ice cream or whatever, they can do it. I mean,
Yeah, and that was kind of my thought about it. I know that Philip had expressed a concern about, people just setting up in front of people's houses and things like that in a residential area, but I don't see how we get around that and still allow, things
The
such
ice
as the
cream
ice cream truck to go
not
there.
gonna- I mean,
No,
Peanut's not gonna take his truck and go in front of Ben Green's house and set up, I mean, it's just not gonna be good business, I wouldn't think, because who's gonna want to?
But he wouldn't go on Mitchell's either, right? Because they're excluded from that district.
Yeah, but that's private property, you have to have
Okay.
permission at that time. Any private property you go on, you gotta have permission from the property owner.
So then that would allow Schwann's, but now Schwann stops here. They stop here and he sells to some of the girls here in the office.
Well, how long is he here? Half hour?
Not that
No,
long.
he's here
Is that-
long
I
enough that
mean,
people say yay or nay if they.
I wouldn't even say he's set up. You know,
That's one of those.
he's just passing through and selling out of his
But
truck.
he may stop at your office and you're in
He
the
might-
historic business district.
He might stop there and want to sell me some steaks, and 10 minutes he's gone.
But still,
He's
that's
not-
the same thing, right?
But he's not, I wouldn't consider that being set up. That's not set up. That's like Peanut would go out to Food Lion or Walmart, and he's set up out there about 2 or 3 hours. That's set up. I mean, for somebody just passing through and stop in a neighborhood for 15, 20, 30 minutes, and he's on his way.
I like the ice cream truck.
Like the ice cream truck.
Yeah.
But wasn't also something about prepared food versus,
There is no distinction between prepared and unprepared food.
That just makes it too cloudy, I think, then.
And I told Philip my concern about making that distinction is that it says in here, and it's very specific, it says, may designate the streets or other public places on or in which all licensed peddlers and itinerant merchants must set up. And so my concern is if we start making those distinctions, then those people would say, you said all, it's impermissible. So that's my thought about that. And so what I'll do is I can put that into a proposed ordinance
Yeah,
to
can
be
you,
presented.
in there, can you state, though, that obviously in the historic district there in arts and crafts, we have food vendors set up. So can you state in an ordinance that that excludes arts and crafts or the Oktoberfest or, not October, Oktoberfest or the wine festival that's getting ready to happen?
Okay.
I don't know, I feel like, because people are going to bring that up and go, I mean, it has been brought up, so.
How about this excludes any town-sponsored activities?
I don't know if, because
No.
the arts and crafts is
we're not,
we chamber.
we
Okay.
don't sponsor.
But we do approve their banner and we do
True.
approve that stuff, so we are, and we do donate a lot of, we donate.
We give the banner fee. or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, we
Well,
waive the banner.
it may be better if we actually will, but then you're gonna run into what if something pops up and y'all are gonna have to change the ordinance just for that,
Or just have a special meeting simply, so I don't know, it may be, just add in there. I mean, we know what's happening now. We know we have arts and crafts.
But when they come and do the banner, get them to also waive it. Can you waive it then, Tessie? Like, if it's in the ordinance, but can you get, like, if arts and crafts comes, can you, when they ask for all their things, can you get them to waive the,
I wouldn't see why you couldn't do that.
what would you, the itinerant merchant or the peddler's
Yes.
license,
Peddler's
waive it
license.
for,
Yeah, but you're still paying meals tax.
Right.
I mean, people at the arts and crafts still pay meals tax.
Yeah, I would say that would be fun to waive that requirement for a few days of, no,
Yeah, but that's
Public
not
streets.
something
so
permanent.
when
Yeah.
arts and crafts comes
Yeah.
to ask for the, street closures and all that, they can also request, even though it's in the ordinance, they can request to waive.
So that's with everything now that happens in the hole, that happens at Swartz's Tavern, any of that stuff, so.
that's what I say. Yep. And then the other question was exactly what are the exceptions? Because there are some statutory exceptions to the text. And one of those is a wholesale merchant. And then the other one is 3717D. And it says this section shall not apply to a peddler at wholesale or to those who sell or offer for sale in person or by their employees ice, wood, charcoal, meats, milk, butter, eggs, poultry, game, vegetables, fruits, or other family supplies of a perishable nature, or farm products grown or produced by them and not purchased by them for sale. And then it goes on to talk about a dairyman and how a dairyman doesn't need a license.
That's pertaining to the farmer's market.
So, for
there.
example, the farmer that's set up in the hole in the square, this summer they've all been compliant, I guess, because they've been selling cantaloupes, watermelons that they raise. But currently they're set up not selling items that they raise. So that, I would say, is not legal now.
They're breaking the rules. Okay.
Well, see, I would say that, but it does talk about how, it talks about those who sell or offer for sale in person or by their employees, and then it lists out those specific things that they can sell, but then it says, or farm products grown or produced by them, not purchased by them for sale.
But, so, I mean, right there it says that, well.
But if my interpretation is that, and I found a case that talks about it too, but my interpretation, just reading the code, is if you are selling those specific things, that you would be exempt, or any other farm products that are grown or produced by them and not purchased by them for sale. But my concern is with that is that it seems to kind of defeat the whole spirit of the exception, because basically you're listing everything there. And then there's another exception which pretty much says the same thing. In 37194, it says a farmer or producer of agricultural products who sells only the farm or agricultural products produced or grown by him. So it seems to me that there are two exceptions that say pretty much the same thing, but then there seems to be an additional exception for specifically the ice, wood, charcoal, meats, milk, butter, eggs, poultry, game, vegetables, fruits, or other family supplies of a perishable nature. But again, that doesn't make much sense of why it's saying that. So,
Okay, so just say, for instance, Eric grows pumpkins.
mm-hmm,
And a farmer's market buys pumpkins from him,
mm-hmm.
and they sell them at their farmer's market.
Not legal then,
Then that's not,
because they're purchasing. Now, if I went down there and sold them, because I raised them, I believe, to me, it would be legal, I would think.
Yes. If you sold them because you raised them, it would. But then
But if I sold them to Jennifer and Jennifer went up and sold them in the square, then I wouldn't think that's legal.
Well, how would we know?
Not by that, what she read.
well, I think, though, if you read it like this, though, it's
It's confusing.
This is
That's
a
what the code
crazy
says.
statute. Okay. So I think if you read it as one sentence, ice, wood, charcoal, meats, butter, which I don't know how you make charcoal, but okay. Meats, milk, butter, eggs, poultry, game, vegetables, fruits, or any other family supplies of a perishable nature, or farm products grown and produced by them and not purchased by them for sale. So if you read that all together, it looks like, the part that says grown or produced by them and not purchased by them for sale applies to all of it, not just the or farm products part, which actually probably makes more sense than the other way I read it, which was that you can always sell ice, wood, charcoal, meats, milk, butter, eggs, poultry, game, and vegetables, because
Yeah, I
that's
feel
pretty
like
much
that's
everything.
The way they were just giving examples that way.
Yeah, and then it also says a farmer or producer of agricultural products who sells only the farm or agricultural products produced or grown by him, which makes more sense than that, but it's saying the same. My interpretation is you have to produce or grow it
Yes,
to get that exception.
So, like, the Farm Bureau people, is it Farm Bureau or State Farm, whatever it is,
Farm Bureau.
up there, they all raise their stuff, so that's legal. I mean, they're legal and doing what they're doing.
How do you know they don't? How do you know
They
others
told
don't?
Philip last week.
Then they need to,
Well, then it raises another situation. They're selling on town property already, and see, that's a,
But they would be, well, if they weren't raising the pumpkins, they would be fine because that section, they are not considered a peddler or itinerant merchant. But so long as they are selling those pumpkins, then they are a peddler or itinerant merchant, and then they couldn't sell on town property and they would have to pay the fee.
but if they were selling farm, the stuff they raise, watermelons, cantaloupes, whatever.
cantaloupe,
Right, then it doesn't apply.
So how are they allowed to sell on town property?
they're not, technically.
That's some of DBI stuff.
So, so then what they sell and what they do right now, they're a peddler or
The way they're
itinerant
going
merchant?
right now, it's illegal because they do not have an itinerant merchant permit from what the code
So
says.
that's what they need to have in order to do this. And so with the other one, the Farm Bureau, the one next to Farm
They
Bureau.
raise
No,
their
They
stuff.
raise their stuff.
But you said this summer they raised all their
He does in
stuff.
the summer, but now he's got a different operation, and it's not being raised by them.
Yeah. Or you can just tell them
Yeah.
stop selling
Yeah,
pumpkins.
just don't sell there or something.
Who are they that go up there?
The Thompson Farm
Or Cambridge.
out of Dundas or whatever.
Okay, so the people next to Farm Bureau, are they a peddler and merchant, or they have the same site all the time, so they should get a business license? Is that correct?
They're-
No, they've
they're
got that
itinerant.
exemption since they raise it themselves.
They're farmers.
Yeah.
So they don't have to
If
pay
you're a
anything.
farmer and raise everything yourself, you don't have to get a permit from what it sounds
And
like.
you don't have to get a business license or?
No.
Alright,
Yep.
You don't have to pay taxes on it or anything like that.
okay.
Yeah, so if you're raising it yourself, then you don't.
So if you
Then
grow
you're
Yeah.
a
exempt.
bunch of tomatoes and you wanna sell tomatoes, you're a farmer.
You can walk down, well, I wouldn't, yeah, you could walk down Main Street peddling tomatoes, I guess, because it's an exception in the Virginia code.
But now, nobody should be selling in the town square, correct? 'Cause it's town-owned
Correct.
property.
Well, if you,
But,
It's town-owned property,
yeah.
so.
And we just said in it that nobody's sell on town property.
But this exemption would apply to the peddlers and itinerant merchants, and so
then
long
there would have to be a
as
separate policy by the town, I guess, saying that no selling
of any
That's
of
kind.
any
approved.
kind. Unless
Or no
approved.
selling of day unless it's been approved by the town.
Well, I think it's clear that obviously we want to say historic district, and you're not selling on town property unless,
It's arts and craft,
yeah, stuff like that.
Oktoberfest.
And it sounds as if you're a farmer and you raise it all, it sounds pretty cut and dry. You can sell it and you pay nothing.
Yeah. Or if you're a dairyman.
Or dairy,
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're buying stuff from someone to resell,
You have to get a
it's
peddler's
not,
license.
yeah,
Or the other one.
or itinerant merchant. And then if we wanted to restrict selling on town property outside of a permit like that, if it's a farmer or whatever, since they're not considered a itinerant merchant or a peddler, that'd have to be in our own ordinance or whatever,
Yeah.
policy.
Yeah, which I think you all could do because
Yeah,
of
that's-
police power, like
Correct.
limiting sale, but
So will not selling on town property be included in this ordinance? Is that what y'all want or not?
Oh, we need to put it in there.
I mean, yeah, whatever you,
Ms. Thompson?
Because
What
like
do
you
you think?
I'm
said,
thinking.
because like you said, you're not gonna allow ice cream trucks, or you're not gonna allow peanut, or you're not gonna allow anybody to sell on town
On
property.
town property.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that goes to everybody.
and that's why I kind of like what the farmers market does up there, because they're on private property. We don't have to deal with it. They're farmers. They do their own thing. We don't have to speculate and.
Now this that we're talking about would only apply for the peddlers and itinerant merchants. But if you all wanted to regulate all sales, not just peddlers and itinerant merchants, then you all could certainly do that too.
Yeah, since a farmer isn't considered a peddler or itinerant merchant.
As long as they're selling what they
what they
produced.
raised.
Yes.
Keyword, raised.
So then, that's a whole separate ordinance.
What,
Yes.
Selling on.
town property
Mm-hmm.
would have to be a separate.
All right, so then are y'all in agreement with?
Yeah, I think it's
the
pretty cut
downtown
and dry, really.
Historical business district and no town property?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You wanna make that a motion?
I make a motion.
Do you have something?
No, I was just going to say for your all's information, since we were talking about that, other exemptions which don't really apply to what we talked about are wholesale dealers, distributors or vendors of motor fuels and petroleum products, and distributors and vendors of seafood, as long as he has caught the seafood himself, a farmers cooperative association, and a manufacturer who is subject to Virginia tax on intangible personal property.
What is it says wholesaler, I mean, really,
On the wholesale, we got in Blackstone, be like surplus sales.
What, is Schwann's a wholesaler?
I don't know. That's when you
This is
just,
way too,
I know,
They have
it's
too many
very
different-
difficult.
why'd you even mention that?
Sorry, I was just telling y'all.
okay,
Yeah.
so that's an exception as well, is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
Those are also exceptions.
So then that guy that has been caught at Kangaroo several times selling seafood,
Is he raising it? It says.
Yeah, if
Did
he's
he
caught
catch
it
it?
himself.
right?
Did he
But
catch
He
it?
probably did not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know there's a organization, it's called Virginia Cooperative something, and they do farm raised seafood. And they could, because it's a
They raise-
group of them and they raise it themselves. So I would think that would be fine, but I mean, they don't peddle the streets, but I was just giving you an example.
Well, ever so often people come through, 'cause I bought some. He had a bunch of steaks.
Mm-hmm.
Omaha steaks,
Yeah.
And,
something like that.
but he was just like, I guess he was there maybe 15 minutes.
That'd be considered, I mean, he's not raising it, so he'd be considered a peddler.
Mm-hmm.
Or itinerant is what he'd be.
But see, he wasn't set up anywhere. He came in, I guess 10, 15 minutes he was gone. Come in,
Like Schwann.
see how many I want, then he leave. Get his money and he leave. He's set up.
I think does Swans fall in under that more than 1 year? I remember you saying, and there was one section where it said if they're here for more than 1 year.
And that was the
Yeah, but
itinerant merchant.
yeah, that's itinerant merchant, not peddler. And I think Schwann's would be a peddler.
Okay.
And Peanut would be a peddler.
Mm-hmm.
I think the peddlers are the ones that's just set up. You know, these other people, like they run in, even Swans, he's not in one, he's in one place all the time. He
He's
knows
all
where
over
his
town.
customers are, and that's where he go, and he go to them and
But it
leave.
says any person carrying goods from place to place.
Mhm.
That is
That's,
Schwann's,
that would be Swans too.
so then the way we're gonna have it written is the ice cream truck, Peanut, and Schwann's cannot come in the historic downtown district.
That's where it'd be written. I don't think Peanuts want to be in the historic district
No.
anyway.
Hmm.
I mean-
What he's doing, he's not gonna be
Right.
in the historic district, because he's gonna be cooking food.
So is that how y'all wanna do it?
I mean, because you can't make exception. Oh, Swans can come through downtown.
Yeah, except for Schwann's. No,
I mean, it's like
can't do that.
So.
Because you know that's going to bring up another issue where you letting...
Oh yeah. So I mean, I feel you just gotta leave it as is, and like we had discussed, and
And Schwann's, I mean, they'll come to your home too, so if he comes by your house, you can say, hey, look, we're not allowed. If he comes here, we can say you're not allowed to sell here, but here's my home address, come by and,
yeah,
and we'll order it that way.
it'd be the safest way because you're gonna get flack if you make exemptions for certain ones.
Mm-hmm.
Just across the board, it needs to be the same.
Yeah. That's the only
the way
way
we
I
have
can
to
see
do
that we
it.
can
I
do
think
it.
so. Or, I mean, if Swans really, then we'd limit all public streets, and then that way, I mean, that's where we said the ice cream truck wouldn't be able to do business, Swans wouldn't be able to do business anywhere in town. So we're giving them you know, 5 or 6 streets they can't be on, but they've got hundreds of others they can be. So,
Okay, so it's in the historic business district,
Mm-hmm,
no town-owned property.
mm-hmm,
We're leaving the fee at $500, correct?
correct.
Is that
Yep.
how you want the motion to be?
I second it. From
You
Lee.
started it, then you missed it.
Mhm.
Okay, now it's your second.
Now, question, before we go, do we have to, for the other one? Then,
For the farmer's market?
no, other one, our one.
The itinerant,
Yeah, what are we charging for that?
same, it's all the same.
It's 500 across the
500.
board?
For both.
Okay,
Itinerant and peddler are both the same. They follow the same. They can't be downtown
okay.
district.
What about all the started peanut?
It needs to be cleaned up. I mean,
Yeah.
It really
in
It's
10
peanut.
years we may have 20 food trucks in Blackstone. You don't know.
It seems that in the discussions, we've had itinerant merchant and peddler backwards. Because we've been calling peanut everybody the itinerant merchant, but the way you read it,
He's a
it's the
peddler.
person that, conducts a business, and occupies any location for less than a year. So the way you read it, the itinerant, it stays in one location.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been confusing them. So the peddler is gonna be Schwann's and the ice cream truck and peanut.
Peanut.
I don't. To be honest, I think everybody will really fall. There's not many itinerants. I
Unless it's
wouldn't.
the fireworks guy, like we talked about.
Yeah, but you,
He
they're
picks
one spot.
location,
Yeah.
he stays.
So
Yeah.
most of all of ours will
Are
be
gonna be
considered peddlers, but for the
But it's-
ordinance wise, they're all.
But it's the same
Same
thing. for
thing.
both. Okay,
All right.
all right, so all in favor?
Alright.
Sorry, I didn't mean to take over.
That's fine.
So, I mean, what about?
Here we go.
So technically, what's going on in the hole now is not legal
Correct.
unless they're raising it.
Right.
Okay.
Because it
So-
shouldn't be on town and property, right?
So,
Correct.
Philip needs to have a talk with DBI,
Correct.
and DBI needs to tell the gentleman, woman, or whoever,
Yeah.
you can't be up here.
Well, technically, they can be up there, but they can't be up there selling anything that they don't
Yes.
raise.
Remember, farmers can go right here in front of the town doorstep and sell because they're not considered itinerants
That's
or
right.
peddlers
That's right.
because they raise it. They're exempted.
That's right.
So if you raise it, have at it. Yes, sir. You can do whatever you want. But if you do not raise it,
You can't be in the town.
you do not know
You can't be in the square.
that. Yep. And you need to have a license.
The farmers don't have to have a license because they raised it.
And it,
Right.
code clearly
Yeah.
states it. Farmers and dairymen.
Mm-hmm. Dairymen,
So if you go
It's their farmers to me.
get a
charcoal
cow
makers.
Yeah.
and start doing homemade butter,
And want to sell it, you
Yeah.
can.
You raise it. You're considered a dairy woman then.
Yeah. Or ice. You can make ice and sell it.
Hot dog.
I was kind of like, ice.
Yeah.
So weird.
It's so dated. I mean, that goes to show. I mean, there's no milkmen that go door to door now, hardly. If any,
Yeah.
I don't know if there is any.
Yeah. The one case I had was from 1934. So,
What did I miss?
That's old.
Everything
okay,
we've done.
so we'll,
Did y'all come up with
1934.
something? What'd you come up with? I'm thrilled.
can't be on any streets in Blackstone.
No street in Blackstone,
The historic business district, that's what we're gonna do.
in front of businesses.
No,
No.
historic
No.
business
Business
district.
district.
No setting up in
There you
historic.
go, that makes some good sense.
And
on-
town-owned property.
Or on town-owned property.
In the historic business district?
No,
Just any town-owned property?
Unless, and I did bring up, like the arts and crafts, we can waive that when they bring forth permits and stuff, or asking for street closures and stuff like that.
If y'all cool, I'm cool.
yep. And then with the exemption, talking through it, what we determined was you have to, if you're exempt from the itinerant merchants tax, you have to actually make or sell that product.
You have
So
to raise it yourself.
the
Yeah, raise
pumpkins,
yourself.
yeah, pumpkins you can't do.
That you don't raise, you gotta pay taxes on that. But the question is it itinerant merchant or is it standard BPOL? Because is the farmer's market a fixed situs? That's my question. And I don't know that. We have a farmer's market every week, same place. Does that count as a permanent site? So I pay BPOL? Or is that an
I
itinerant
think
location,
of a-
then I gotta pay itinerant merchant.
By reading that, I think a farmer, if you raise it, you're clear, you
Clear.
pay nothing.
Exactly.
If you don't raise it, you get a peddler's license.
Yeah.
Peddler's license.
I
And a
think,
farmer's
No, the
market.
itinerant merchant.
Or
because there's
what-
some- yeah.
same
Whatever.
I think it would still be an itinerant merchant.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is it says temporary or transient business, it's only every week, and who for the purpose of carrying on such a business occupies any location for a period of less than a year. So in other words, if they do it every Tuesday for more than a year,
They're doing it on Thursdays, once a week. So
Yeah.
you think that would be an itinerant merchant and not a BPOL?
unless they raise everything.
yeah, unless,
They do it on
Raise
Saturday. They do it on
It's a moot
Thursdays.
point.
No,
Right.
the one down here is.
Oh,
on
I'm
Thursday.
thinking about the one up there.
Well, we gotta go to them too then.
Uh-huh.
They've gotta start paying tax on that, don't they? 'Cause I don't think
And-
any of them.
Oh, you don't think
if
they
ra-
raise-
If they
Yeah, I
all
think
I
raise
think
it,
they raised the majority, but I'm sure there's things that I don't know what they raised.
I think they still be selling stuff other than homemade stuff.
I did talk to the man up here. He didn't raise pumpkins, he doesn't raise apples, mums, stuff. And he does
Technically,
some of that.
Technically,
He's gotta get an itinerant merchant's license and pay $500
or just sell what he raises.
or just sell what he raises.
I mean, he can sell his cantaloupe, whatever he raises, that's set up. But if he sells anything extra,
And we
he
also.
is then considered not a
talked
farmer.
Well,
we also talked
how do
about
we
why
know
he's
they
selling
didn't
on
raise
town
it?
and property.
How do we know they
because
did
the
raise
farmer's
it?
market is fine. But if it's not what he has raised himself, he can't sell it on town property.
But we shouldn't allow any selling on town property.
But this is a GBI thing, I think the mayor and I think Zachary had
Zach.
talked about it a time or two. That's a DBI baby, but if we're gonna do this,
Well,
DBI.
and this isn't us changing. We were just finally deciphered the code enough to where
there you go. That's
the exemptions,
perfect, 'cause I didn't know.
where if you raise it, you're good. If you don't,
It's
you-
itinerant
you pay.
merchant and not standard BPOL.
Correct.
Sadly, the ladies have sold him a BPOL license, so I gotta go back and give him a $125 prorated deal.
who was it?
I don't even
Thompson,
know the guy's name.
or
Oh.
it's Walter's brother,
Yeah. Well,
They are from Lunenburg, yeah.
Bruce.
Yes. So, but arguably, if he has consistently occupied or intends to occupy that same place for more than a year on his temporary basis, then perhaps he would be considered as
Got 365
BPOL.
days, so.
Yeah, and then that's okay. If that's the case, then it may not have to be 365 days, but for 52 weeks out of the year, it has to be one day out of that. And I highly doubt that's going to be the case. I mean, in the middle of
Please tell me
January,
what to do, and I'm happy to do it.
I think he would be considered a transient merchant because it says,
Transient merchant, so he gets that 1 month, and then he can sell whatever he wants. However, if it's transient and we said no town property, do we need to go back and revisit him selling in the town square?
You gotta get
Because
up
I
there.
know what Pina's gonna say, or
Yes.
the ice cream truck man.
we
somebody else gonna say.
said no town
We're not gonna flip, you gotta go.
unless he raises. Now, if
unless
he raises,
he-
he can sell right there at that front door.
yeah, if he raises everything, then he
It's all
could still
exempt.
be in town
Correct. It's all
square.
exempt. It
But
says
if
in
it's
there.
considered itinerant, no town property and no public right of way within the historic business district.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you for
And
clarifying that.
unless, I mean, and again, if he raises everything he has, he can come set up on that porch right there.
Yeah.
And you're cool with that?
Yeah,
Cool,
that's,
everybody's voted, everybody.
Well, how would we know he raised it?
Well, we got a truth. I mean, hopefully people are truthful, but he's obviously already told.
I mean, he was
Philip
real straight with me. He said, yeah, man.
And
I'm
nothing's
raising
wrong
one,
with Thompson.
I'm
Thompson's a great
Oh,
people.
okay, okay.
But why do you still allow it on town-owned property?
If he's a farmer, you can't regulate.
If it's a farmer's market,
well,
You
you,
can regulate where he does it, you just can't regulate charging it.
Not a farmer. Farmers are exempt
Yeah.
from this code.
farmers are exempt from the peddler and itinerant merchants code. And what we were talking about it
Then we'd have to create a
regulating the place has specifically to do with peddlers and itinerant merchants. If you all want to regulate people that are exempt from peddler and itinerant merchants where they can sell and not sell like farmers markets and
We're not
things
doing
like
that.
that, that
if you
would
have
be,
a farmer's market and you're gonna set up in the town square, on town property or on the public right of
You
way,
raise 100% of
you
it.
gotta raise 100%.
100%.
Correct.
Not
Otherwise-
95%.
Get off the town property and get an itinerant merchant's license
Correct.
and sell outside the
Outside
historic
of the
building.
historic and off of town property.
Correct.
So we'll go to council with this thing on Monday night, clean this up, and then we'll start from there.
Okay.
We good?
Do you
We
all?
haven't advertised the public hearing yet, so
Yeah.
if you wanna come up with something that we can provide Monday night,
Yes.
and then we'll do a public hearing the next.
Yes.
So I'd
Yeah.
dare say maybe immediate, as soon as we have the public hearing, we change the ordinance so that we can enforce it. and make it
Well, I mean, we're changing that you can't sell in the town, I guess.
Yeah. But that's all we're changing. It
Yeah, so
already
current
has
code
these
already
exemptions in
states
it.
This
that
applies.
So it's enforceable now.
it's
today.
enforceable now.
Except for the ordinance that needs to be passed to regulate the location. That's it. Everything else, the exceptions that are in here are in the
So he
state
is an
code.
itinerant merchant, in your opinion, and he needs to get an itinerant merchant license every year.
Or stop
Or
selling.
stop selling
Stuff he
anything
doesn't
that
raise.
Correct. Yeah, the only thing we need to pass at this point is the ordinance regulating the place.
Town-owned property in a historic business district. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I can do that.
All right, I'm gonna go.
You didn't even work yesterday, did you? I saw you went to, where'd you go yesterday? A farm or something? I saw your picture on Facebook. Did you work yesterday?
No, that was on Saturday when I went there. Yeah, I was
Don't put your business on the video.
No, we went to go see the real Thomas the Train.
That's right, the real Thomas
So
Train.
that was exciting.
Where'd you do it, in Pennsylvania?
We went to the one in North Carolina. It was like
Pennsylvania, you-
50 miles north of Charlotte. Well said, it was a long, hard drive, Mom.
See you.
See ya.
Bye.
Alright, so do we wanna go back now to the zoning permit fees? Let's start with them.
Zoning permit fees. Mr. Chairman,
Go for it.
here's the deal. When we came to the council, I came to the council some time ago. Right now, we have been charging $25 for a building permit fee, irregardless of what it's for. An electric, plumbing, mechanical, signs, anything is $25. And I felt a little sheepish about charging somebody $25 for us to just to fill out a piece of paper for an electric permit, okay? So I came to you guys and council, and I think it got a little crossed up. That wasn't what we were intending, what was ultimately adopted. If we've got to go outside the building to look at it, man, that's just a way hard to try to decipher. Because we do a lot of the work inside, people come to us, and we've got a guy that's wanted to put a building up on Lunenburg Avenue, and we went through a bunch of stuff. Jennifer has come to me and said, all I ask, Phil, is that we do something consistent. My intention was to waive the charge for electric, plumbing, and mechanical permits. They're not changing the building. All they're doing is putting in new wiring, or they're putting in a new panel box, or there's no zoning to it. It does take time for Jennifer to do the paperwork and fill out stuff and stop what she's doing. So what Jennifer's asked me, and I think it's right, either we charge $25 for everybody, plumbing, mechanical, everybody, or we don't charge anybody. So I didn't feel good about charging an electrician, Bo Lewis, to work on an air conditioner, $25 for a zoning permit. But Jennifer says, and I'd like for her to speak to it as well, but she feels like it does take time for us to do all those kinds of things. We've stopped charging people until we kind of get this resolved. And what my initial intention was to waive the electric, the plumbing, and the mechanical. But I think we got farther along. Well, if you leave the building, then I don't do that. So I'm asking you guys for a little help.
Is $25, is that a burden on a lot of them?
I dare say they
How
turn
many-
around and charge the property
How
owner.
many permits a month are we?
Last week I did 10 in 2 days, so it just depends.
It depends. Are we doing 25 a month?
It just depends.
10 in 2 days. Jennifer's we gotta get money somehow, to pay her doing it.
So it's either leave it like it was, $25 for everybody, no matter what, whether it's a sign, whether it's Walmart, whether it's Goodwill, whether it's whatever, or don't charge everybody.
How long does it take you to do it?
Probably 15 minutes, 15. But, they walk in my door, I do the
Yeah.
permit right there, I stop what I'm doing, So it's either, I'd like it one or the other.
Is 25? I think it needs to be charged. That's my feeling. Is 25 on the high end? Do you think? What if we went 15? or something. Just-
Maybe we do, because we can put a bunch of time into stuff. Maybe we do 25 for the building permits and $10 for the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
25 for building. I forget how much we paid when we put windows in the church.
Probably $25.
Oh, no, we paid more than 25.
No. There's a town 25. Then you got to go get a building permit on top of that.
Okay, I got you.
Paid your-
Yeah, you paid significantly more to the county.
I don't think,
If for some reason you and I were not in the
Well, that's
office
why I said
and some,
15.
what,
Josh
25
has
is
to
too
be
much?
there, he might not know what the fee should be.
I don't
So
think,
it's
know,
still
if-
gonna be,
I
Mhm.
think that's too much.
If you gonna, if
Fine.
you get
I-
something done,
I mean, do you agree with that? If Josh happens to
they
do
gonna
one,
charge
he's
you
gonna be
for
like,
it.
well, what fee do you charge? And then I get him again, and then, well, they only charged me 15 this time, and now you're charging me 25. I just wanna be clear.
Make 'em-
25, I don't think 25 is too much.
25 straight
If you go
across.
to
Straight
Notary,
across. That's what we used to do, or what we've been doing. If
$25 across the board.
across the board, good enough.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I just wanna be
That's
clear and
it, that
concise.
sells it.
Once again, I was just trying to be nice.
Alright, so,
We're gonna go back to what we were doing, and but council adopted a motion saying if you leave the building to do zoning, you charge, otherwise you don't.
So you need a motion to come from us. I
Recommendation to go back.
move that we go back to the old way of $25 for all permits.
No exceptions.
Whether it is building, construction, or
What have you.
whatever it be.
Second,
Across the board, it's the same.
all in favor?
Uh,
Ayes have it.
He's back again.
advertising on buses.
Josh Worrell is going to present to you.
Josh, you created a stink.
He's lost
Yeah.
something, that's why he's back.
Tigers, Jim.
Yeah.
I think, I just remember reading the paper years ago, that was kind of controversial.
He's lost something.
You're fine.
I know it's been coming, you guys lived through it years ago, with the buses and all that. I didn't live through it, I read the paper. Josh came to me, with a fresh perspective and asked if he could take a look at this and see if this is possible. I don't mean to throw you all back in the tiger den, but I did promise Josh would give you an opportunity to take a look at it and see if it makes sense. The mayor did send an email out.
Two of them.
That was two of them.
That's
Questioning the wisdom of doing this, and,
That's come up before, hasn't it?
Okay.
The advertising, hasn't that come up before?
Mm-hmm.
A while back.
10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
What do other bus localities?
What I did is I used Farmville area bus system as a example. I basically went around their structure, what they did on their buses. And what they do on their buses is they have one big advertisement on the back of their bus. It's a special bracket that you basically, they require advertisers to bring their own advertisement. They place it on the back of their bus and they charge $50 a month for it.
That's cheap.
It's very cheap, very cheap
That's cheap. I
compared
was
to
thinking
others.
You're
Like,
gonna have some big figures.
right. Well, Richmond and GRTC, like Blacksburg Transit, they're big bus systems. You have thousands of people working on them a day. So theirs will obviously be more, but the policy that I have proposed to you, and I also have a projected revenue sheet in there as well. And that basically lays out the plan that I would like to implement on our buses. I spoke with our representative at Sunny Merriman, who is our bus vendor, who we order our buses from. And they have an option on their bus, or an option on the buses that we order, rather, that we can place 2 panels on opposite sides of each other, going down the sides of the bus. That's a one-time expense of, I think it was like $310, and you're good to go. On those panels, it is estimated to fit roughly about 20 advertisements. And what I'd like to do is to have a quarter price, where advertisers can advertise on for a quarter, so 3 months. That would be $125 for 3 months per ad. Now, if we did 20 advertisements on the inside of the bus at $125, that it would generate roughly $5,000 per quarter per bus. That's assuming that we have all 20 slots filled.
Now, is that 20 on each side or 20 on?
20 altogether. That's on the inside. What I'd like to do also is maybe do what Farmville area bus system is doing and also do outside advertisements for a little bit more. I don't know what exactly would be involved in that because we would have to look into different brackets that would fit our buses because of the tail lights, signal lights, stop lights, and all that. So I would have to do a little more research on that. But if we were to do that and do the big ones, we'd be obviously limited. But if we were to do the same thing that we do on the inside of the buses and do 8x11s, we could fit roughly 40 ads on one bus. I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong number. If we filled 40 ads together, we would roughly earn $5,000 per quarter, or $20,000 a year per bus. All right. We currently have 7 primary buses. Those are buses that are run every single day on the routes. We all have spares attached to those, but they don't get run every single day. So if we did it on 7 of those buses, that would generate roughly $140,000 a year. If we did it on all of our buses, which would be 16 buses, it would generate roughly $320,000 a year. That's assuming we fill all the slots, though. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to obviously implement that and use the revenue that is generated from the ads to go do a 50-50 split between operating expenses and capital improvement projects in the future. I spoke with our DRPT representative, and unfortunately, because they are FTA-funded vehicles, the town cannot collect any of those revenue. They have to stay in the bus system itself.
Well, that's gonna be your killer right there.
Yeah.
And
Look like
to
the
us,
airport.
we look at it and we go, well, you know what? It's not worth the pain and anguish that it's gonna cause. Because I can tell you, when you talk $140,000 a year, you start talking, if that was taxpayer dollars, yeah, we're talking then. But when we gotta start splitting it with, at that point, it's kinda like, I don't know, it ain't.
Right, and it would help alleviate some of the local matches, like
Oh, yeah.
Blackstone's portion, Dinwiddie's portion, stuff like that. But you know, you can only use it on bus system stuff.
Correct. Like Lee said, it's just like the airport. I used to love hearing them jets fly. Now I'm like, huh? Okay.
Well, it
What
pays
to do?
for itself.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
And I would feel, if it were generating revenue for the taxpayers of Blackstone, that they would see the benefits. Like if we could take the money and go put it into a community center, I would have a little bit more gumption and go, well, you know, maybe a little extra competition, but it's to benefit all the citizens. But the current way it is, it's not going to benefit really.
Just people who ride the bus.
Yeah, or just the bus system itself. I mean, and DRPT.
That's correct.
So
And I mean, a lot of the money that we will operate on is FTA, DOT, and local match stuff like that. So it would help alleviate some of the tax burden, but you're not using the whole amount.
correct.
You know.
I mean, because when you have on here the figure of $320,000 if we filled all the buses, I mean that's half of what our meals tax
Like
revenue is. I mean
75% of our budget.
that's big money. But if we can't touch it, is it worth it?
That's the only monkey wrench.
So-
Well, that's not the only one, but
I mean, but I'm glad you bring that up. Instead of we go down the road and we go, man, that's great, and then we start doing this policy, and then you go, oh, and by the way, you can't touch the money.
that's right. And that's what I really wanted to get all the I's dotted and T's crossed.
Yeah.
So one other thing I want to throw out there too for you guys to also consider is that our representative for DRPT also mentioned that if we do not hire an outside advertising organization to approve the advertisements before they put on the bus, we have to create a review committee involving one of the ads representative, one DRPT representative, and one town representative. So those 3 would have to approve the ads before they are placed on the bus, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but then you're just equating another layer
Yeah.
of cushion.
Well, I mean, I'm not down in your work, but I make a motion that we table this and for the time being. I mean, I'm just glad you bring up the facts to begin with prior to us getting involved in it, and then you go, you can't touch the money.
Right, and it can turn into issue further down the road.
Correct.
I second his
So
motion.
you're denying it or tabling it?
Table it. It's a
Yeah,
table.
tabling it. I mean, it's-
Might look
In
at
other
it-
words,
look
yeah,
at it
but-
again.
I mean, it's there. We keep the information. We know, I mean, what it would be, and I just don't think it's worth the stink. And like I said already, I said if it were tax-paying money that was gonna come back to us here,
Reminds me of me.
if we're not gonna be able to see the full,
Yeah, and
is it really worth it to us?
exactly, and that's a pretty sizable amount of money that you could potentially have worked with, but
That's right.
unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
Yep. But you did do your homework, and I can tell.
I
So,
try. All right.
And then another thing, just going off of that, I do feel with possibly shifting staff in the next few weeks that it's going to task us a little more than what, a little more than what you will be able to handle, from what I hear. So I just, you know, it's not worth it when we think about the overall picture.
It was a goal.
No, I'm glad you proceeded. That's what we want. We want fresh eyes to look at things. So
Enthusiasm.
yes, that's what we want.
Love it.
I wish we'd get some out of Jennifer.
Tell if you can hit the button minute you want.
Did he say the town manager should be one of them? I think Josh is here also for a draft of the internship policy.
Yeah.
And we've got that written down, and I don't know,
It's in your packet.
if you, I don't know if you're prepared to act on it, just quickly, I don't know if you've been through it and read it.
It was in your council packet. think
Yeah, I
last
read
time,
over
wasn't
the
it?
one that was on the council pad.
Yes, there also might need to be some changes made to it in the near future. I'm currently working with different organizations such as SVCC and other colleges and stuff like that. Basically, what I'd like for y'all to approve tonight is to just give me the okay to go ahead and do that and to look at it maybe next month's council meeting as a draft to adopt.
Didn't we give you permission in council?
No, I
Work
think
on
it.
I think it came back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you? And you're looking at an internship that's not paid, correct?
Yes, it would be an unpaid internship, and what I'm hoping to achieve with it is to have, obviously, a community aspect on it, letting people come in and work with the town and stuff like that, but to also maybe potentially work with SVCC in creating a certificate program to award interns with a certificate at the end of their experience here.
I mean,
Good resume.
I don't see that it. Yeah, I don't see that it. I mean, it costs us nothing as long as it doesn't hinder our employees and actually benefits our employees. Which I think by your stipulations on here, they got to have certain GPA and.
Yeah.
Right,
all
we're
this
trying to
stuff.
target a certain area.
Yeah.
Or a group.
Then I think you'll be fine. I mean, I just don't want to be a hindrance to say you got someone down here that's supposed to be helping Jennifer type minutes or something, and they don't know how to even type on a computer or something, and it hinders her, and
You gotta train them how to do it.
she's got to train them. Yeah, that's. I mean, yes, we want to train, but more or less we want them to learn from how we're working or how they're working.
Right, and like the main goal from it was like going from a conceptualization of what government does to an actual hands-on experience of what it does. Like especially in a small town, you know, you got so much difference between Richmond and Blackstone.
Oh, yeah.
But there would be an interview process, of course, before to approve applications and stuff like that. So there would be application process, interview process, and then an award would be given to the potential student.
How often do you see? I mean, how many a year or 2 times a year?
I'd like to see two, but I guess we can start off
a
at
year
one.
at 6 months a year or what? What do you?
Well, a semester,
A semester.
yeah, fall, spring.
I mean, and it could even evolve into one of those things where obviously it looks as if it's leaning towards maybe being an admin side, and it could be where they end up getting, you know, Southside has a lineman program out there. They could have an internship following town guys around. I mean, obviously you got a little more liability there, but
I think what I'd like to ultimately see is maybe even court work where we could provide a hands-on experience, maybe it'd be credits, or we could have some sort of lectures or something. Nothing, you know, we don't want to sit there and lecture somebody, don't learn anything, but maybe sit down and say, hey, we're going to go wastewater plant today. We're going to go to the water plant. This is how we do it. Let the guys that work in the plants explain to them how the chemistry is applied and all that.
and we
sort of
could
thing.
get workers out of that. I mean,
You may one day be able to get a wastewater operator or somebody that can step into some of these jobs.
and we could evolve into possibly like someone shadow Stephanie over there as an internship on the PD side, and they learn the PD admin side of it. And I wouldn't think you'd want them riding around with the PD
No.
because of liabilities, but
I do think the certificate is an important part because they have something tangible
they
they
can
can
show.
sell to an employer. Say,
Right.
I've been to Southside Virginia Community College internship program, here's a copy of my certificate. I think it's a good thing
good.
to have on a resume. Sure.
So you need a motion from us, or
Yeah.
I think, I mean,
Sounds like a good
In the
thing.
council meeting last month, you said this was more informational, you wanted council to review and give their thoughts and then come back to vote, so I don't know if there's a motion needed here,
no, I think,
I think y'all were supposed to
Proceed
review
on
it and
that.
let him know if there of any changes or anything you wanted to do.
I think do what you're doing and
Okay, so basically just move on with what I have planned and we'll revisit it in November?
I think council's gonna have to adopt the policy.
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to full council in November.
but I mean, you're on the right track.
Okay. Sounds good.
That's good.
Last item, and I have this actually advertised in the paper. Okay. This is the electric policy guideline. I put an ad in the paper because I just want to, better safe than sorry. I didn't want somebody to come up and say, well, I didn't know that. All right. This is advertised in the paper, and what this is a written policy of what we do. We like them written down, but we sure don't like after the fact coming back and trying to figure out what exactly we're supposed to be doing. So this is a written policy, and it specifically applies to commercial and multifamily development. We've got a bunch of them coming, okay? I think you're gonna see a significant number of multifamily projects. I know between Frankie Williamson's has been approved and Dave McCormick's got one that he's gonna be working on. Single-family residential, and this is exactly what we do now. The town of Blackstone shall at no cost to the customer provide permanent overhead, single-phase service. Now, the difference of what we're not doing and what we are doing, and this is something that Dan asked me to include, is the 300 feet of existing primary. That is different. Because right now, we don't differentiate. You can be a mile off and we'll pay 100% of the cost to go overhead to get to the house. That's how we do it. Dan said, don't you think we should? And we probably should have some limit, but I don't want to get cost prohibitive, because I think some folks out in the country, and you're gonna see this if there's not already electricity close to a rural lot, it's pricey to build a house in a rural area, especially like where I live, that long driveway and everything, that was expensive. And they paid for the overhead, only charged me for the underground. Man, it's half a mile down the primary road, or the state route, before you even turn the driveway. And Southside doesn't do that anymore. They would have charged me 100% for that cost, and it's expensive. Dan had requested that we put in some sort of a parameter of what we will do at no cost. Okay?
So over 300, there is a chunk.
We're proposing that, okay? It could be 500, it could be 400, it could be 250. It needs to, I think, have some limitation, okay?
How do you put a figure on that?
How?
Or is that done per job?
Per job.
Is
Okay.
it labor and material, is that what the cost will be?
It would be labor and materials, yep.
Okay.
So
We
that's
don't
where
mark
it
up
says,
anything. And you can change that if you want us to continue to do it, because truly, there ain't many lots in Blackstone that aren't within
No.
300 feet of them. I don't think you're gonna run into a whole lot of these things, because there's very few locations that would even apply to.
correct.
But I guess trying to think ahead, and what happens to that one where we drop $8,000, $10,000, whatever we're running the line to. And
I just look at it, is it gonna be inhibitive to, I mean, we wanna gain customers,
Sure.
and we don't want that to be a deterrent to someone going, well, crap,
But remember, the primary service is automatically the owner.
yeah,
It's just a drop from the pole to the house.
That's right.
That we're talking about, or the single-phase service to the house. No, we don't want to be cost prohibitive. We don't want to.
Yeah.
But it is, and I understand Southside's got a big system and
Yeah.
rural lots and all those kinds of things, and it may make good sense what they're doing. But we don't want to get, and we don't necessarily need to charge people
No.
a significant amount of money to do so. Okay? If you want to take the 300 feet out, it is not what we do now. Remember, we don't have anything written down, we just tell folks what we're doing. And it's been that way for a long time. If you don't want to do the 300 feet, that's okay too.
I mean, are there any areas in town not within?
many. Really not. I don't know a specific example, there may be one down on North Sullivan Street or where it's a significant size lot.
Yeah.
But Dan recommended putting in something, and I don't think it's a bad idea.
No, it's not. I just look at it and I don't want somebody on North Sullivan Street to go, oh man, I gotta now pay $2,000 to,
Most of the houses there, ain't 300 feet up.
Well, yeah, but I'm just, I mean, if there is a lot, I just don't, I'm trying to think somewhere that is.
It isn't.
The Gravett Farm isn't town.
That's okay.
That's,
It's out of town.
yeah, well, it's in town, but it's,
But it's
Southside
not town
Power.
service. Pine Lane, you got a pretty big tract of land over there. Most of that stuff down in Epping Forest is not town. It's unlikely.
yeah.
If you want to take it out, I'm cool. But just be, we may find that one example.
Yeah, do we have a policy if we need it? I mean, may as well
We did
look
it.
at
I
it.
mean, I'm
No.
not fighting for it.
Did Dan give you that figure?
He did. He gave me 300 feet. And I don't know of a spot where it would apply.
Yeah.
I can take it out, and not a problem, but it is different than what we're doing now. Right now, we're running a drop. We ran a drop across from Cole Harbor Apartments not too long ago, and I don't think that was 300 feet. If you go and look at the double wide that's out there,
Yeah.
actually in the county,
Well, what do you recommend?
I would take it out. If you're a little uncertain about it, I would take it out.
I mean, if we don't have any lots on mine,
I'll leave it in.
I mean, we could look at
I
it either
believe it
way,
in
but.
too.
Leave it in.
I think so.
That's the reason I advertise it, because that is different. That's a change.
Yeah.
And I put a notice in the paper for the meeting.
I mean, if that's how y'all feel, that's fine. I mean,
I
I'll go
think
with
just
you.
to
but-
cover us.
Yeah, just
down the
in
road.
case.
Yeah, but then I look at it as, what if that same person down the road comes up and this is already a policy and it ends up being $1,000 cost? And I mean, if you're building a, I don't know, a $50,000 house, $1,000 is a decent
Is that it?
ad. I mean, so, but, I mean, we know, we've already said we make a decent amount more on electricity. I mean, especially this year, we're making an extra 8%. So we eat that cost and make it back eventually, faster than.
Leave it in, and then council can talk it out. You don't take it out, you take it out.
Yeah,
After the
We don't
public
have a
hearing,
final
if y'all
say
say
on
you
it.
don't want-
Yeah.
And maybe I can go to Dan and say, hey, do you know where this would apply? Is there somewhere
Yeah.
specific you're thinking about? And, because the primary still has to be paid for by the property.
Correct.
It's just a drop going down. Do you charge for the drop for a single family home?
I'm just trying to think of where it could be at. But yeah, ask Dan. I mean, we'll go to council and I mean, obviously it's going to be a public hearing for it, so that's fine.
It's advertised. All right, moving on. Townhouse multifamily. Okay. And I'm using the zoning ordinance designations, and there may be something that you want to add to this. In the nomenclature that we have in our zoning ordinance, you have single family home, single wide, double wide, single family home, modular, stick built, whatever, okay? Then you have a two family home, which is a duplex, okay? This allows the duplex not to pay for the connection.
Is it the way it is currently?
That's the way it is currently. That's the way it is currently.
Why? What was the reasoning behind that?
Because it is current.
Because you don't pay for the double wide or the single wide, but you do pay for duplex.
No.
You don't pay for
Duplex
the
is exempt
duplex.
too right now. Now, I haven't changed it. We talked a little bit in the office, and I guess Dan's position is that an investment property that you're gonna be making revenue from?
Mm-hmm.
Should the duplex be included? Should the duplex be included as duplex, townhouse, multifamily? Multifamily is an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Townhouse looks like an apartment, but by our definition, it's side by side and not top and bottom. You
Yeah.
only have 6 or 8 connected. A duplex is exactly what Frankie Williamson built up the street, 2 of them put together. Right now.
I mean, does it cost anything extra to the town to hook up a duplex any more than what it would a residential?
No.
Then I don't think it should be in,
So the duplex
I think
would
it's just
remain
yeah.
exempt.
From what I understand, now if it takes a town to put a different transformer out there, yes, that a train
You know, I'm not an expert.
outside of a pole transformer. I'm talking a pole transformer that you set on the ground for a bit, like
That's
Goodwill,
why the multifamily and the townhouse, they get a pad mount job, and those are expensive.
for instance.
They pay for those.
They pay for
Jason Walker, just out there on Courthouse, did he have to have a transformer put out with only 6 units? But it's
that's
not.
a townhouse.
But it's not a pad mount.
I'd have to double check. I'd have to double check.
So you're talking the duplex right now don't pay,
Don't pay the extra for the drop.
but
Single
homes.
family and a duplex, we haven't been charged, it's just like a house, you just.
Yeah.
So you're asking about the duplex should be included in with the
do we
As
leave it as a
apartments.
single family, or should we say, no, a duplex is the same as an apartment building, you gotta pay for the drive to go to that?
I mean, I'm again of the same thing that, you know, you don't want to be prohibitive. I mean, I'd say just leave it as is and.
But anything more than 2 units, all materials used by the town will be billed to the customer at cost. We don't mark them up.
At cost,
They charge
which is
$800.
good. We don't need to make money on that side of it.
There's no markup on material.
That's,
Additionally, there will be no labor cost charged to the customer. It's straight up material.
That's fine with me.
Straight up material. Commercial. All materials used by the town of Blackstone will be billed to the customer at cost. There will be no markup on materials. Additionally, there's no labor cost charged to the customer. We don't charge for labor.
I don't think we
That's
should.
there, and we want to encourage customers to input
Correct.
line. Underground service. Underground is available to all classes of customers. All material, we're talking about the drop going to your house. All materials used by the town of Blackstone to provide underground electric service shall be billed to the customer at an at-cost rate. So say it's a single family and I don't want to look at a pole going up my driveway, and I want you to put it underground, you pay material.
Now, when it says materials, do you differentiate and say, since obviously you don't charge for a drop for a single family,
Or a duplex.
say my home, when I built, you don't charge me to hook up.
Right.
I did underground, so I got charged for the line.
Material, the line.
I didn't get charged for a transformer. So do we have to differentiate and say, because in here it says for material, well, a transformer is considered material.
Maybe we need to clarify.
You need to say,
Including transformers for single family and duplexes will not be charged.
correct.
Pole line, pole mounted.
Yes.
Transformers for single family and 2 family.
Yeah, because when you say materials, that means materials for the whole job, whatever it be.
Mhm. No, we didn't charge for your transformer.
Yeah, you charge me for the underground wire that was used.
Okay, so now where are we talking about?
On the underground,
Okay,
Sing-
overhead and underground, so,
no, that's
Oh,
primary, this
okay.
is just a drop to the
okay, so
house.
underground service is available to all class of customers. All materials used, okay, so what, all materials,
All material, all line installed,
It may be something Dan's got a word, really. I mean,
we're not gonna charge for new poles and all that, transformers in the air. We're charging the buried infrastructure.
which is the way we've been doing it.
That's what we do.
But it needs to
We
be.
don't charge for up.
electrical lines being